Okay, so let me just spill the tea because honestly, if I don't get this out of my system, my head is going to explode. Imagine you meet someone, let's call him Jake, back in 2017. He's got that charming, open-minded vibe and everything about his energy screams, I'm down for adventure, not just in life, but in bed. And for me, that was always important. I mean, I've always been a little extra when it comes to what I want. I'm not talking anything illegal or disgusting or whatever people imagine when they hear the word kinky. Just fun things, spicy things, the kind of stuff that makes you feel alive and seen and desired. But anyway, I digress. Jake seemed so open at first. We'd talk for hours, and yeah, sometimes those conversations got pretty explicit. He'd say things like, oh yeah, I'd totally try that, or that sounds interesting. Maybe he didn't have a ton of experience, but he made it sound like he was game to explore with me. You know how it is when you're first falling for someone, everything's new, every look means something, and every text is a little thrill. So I thought, this is it. This is the guy who gets me, but here's where the plot thickens, the universe has jokes. We didn't actually start sleeping together until 2022. A long time, right? There were reasons, jobs, distance, COVID, you name it. Finally, we're together and I'm thinking, okay, now the fun begins. All those late night texts are about to come true, except they didn't, not even close. The first time we were together, it was fine, like textbook missionary, lights off, no talking except maybe an awkward you good. At first I thought maybe it was nerves or just the newness of being together physically after so long apart. No big deal, first times can be weird. But then the second time, same thing, and the third time. Identical, even when I tried to take the lead. Like suggesting a new position or bringing up something we talked about before, Jake would freeze up or laugh nervously and steer things right back to basics. So I waited a little while before saying anything because you don't want to rock the boat too soon, right? But by month 2 or 3 of our real relationship, it started gnawing at me. The realization that he wasn't just shy or rusty. He was vanilla as plain yogurt. Now let me say this, there is nothing wrong with being vanilla. Some people genuinely prefer it simple and sweet, and that's great for them. But what do you do when you're on opposite ends of the spice spectrum? I tried to talk about it gently at first, like one night after dinner while we were curled up together on the couch. I said something like, hey babe, remember those talks we used to have? Would you maybe want to try something new this weekend? He looked at me like I'd suggested we burn down his childhood home. He literally sat up straight and went, no offense, but some of that stuff is kind of gross. Gross. He said my desires were gross. Do you know how humiliating that feels? When someone you love calls your deepest wants disgusting, especially when you've been nothing but honest from day one. And before anyone jumps on me, I'll clarify now, no, my kinks don't involve anything with poop or anything illegal or dangerous. Just regular spicy stuff most adults have at least heard about if not actually tried. Honestly, compared to some stories out there, mine are pretty tame. But apparently not tame enough for Jake. For weeks after that conversation, I felt like a freak in my own house. Every time we fooled around, which became less and less frequent by the way, I couldn't even bring up what I wanted because now my body was bracing for rejection before I even opened my mouth. But here's what really gets under my skin. He knew from the beginning what I liked. He acted open-minded and adventurous to reel me in. He played along just enough so I'd stick around until he had me hooked with feelings and promises and all those cozy couple-wide plans that make reality so much harder to escape from later on. I kept trying for months, even tried couples therapy once because everyone online says communication is key blah blah blah, but Jake wouldn't even go. He'd nod along while watching TV or scrolling through his phone and say things like, yeah, we'll look into it, but never book an appointment or even read an article about spicing things up. It started feeling less like a relationship and more like living with a roommate who occasionally rubs your back out of obligation. And then came this creeping sensation, that slow burn in your gut when you realize someone isn't just bad at sex, they don't care about your pleasure at all. It's selfishness with a polite face on top. Like, do you ever stop and wonder, why would someone not want their partner to feel good? Even if something doesn't turn you on personally, doesn't it matter that your person is happy? I've never been with anyone who wasn't into exploring at least a little bit. It's always been mutual curiosity before Jake, a safe place where nobody has to pretend or apologize for what turns them on. With him though, it always circles back around to what he wants, which is basically nothing, and everything else gets shut down fast. And yes, I respect boundaries, of course I do. If something truly makes him uncomfortable, then fine, we don't have to go there. But he doesn't just say no thanks, he makes me feel dirty for even asking. So here's where things get tricky. After years of getting nowhere with him emotionally or physically, I started craving more than just sex. I craved validation that my desires weren't weird or shameful, that someone out there would want to please me because they cared about my happiness too. I tried everything to save our intimacy before even considering alternatives outside our marriage, openly discussing my feelings repeatedly, suggesting therapy repeatedly, sending him articles about healthy sexual exploration, ignored, planning romantic weekends away, awkward silence. Nothing worked. So guess what happened next? My mind started wandering, just a little at first, a fantasy here, a DM there. It's amazing how quickly loneliness finds company online when you're desperate enough for connection. I found myself lurking on forums where people talked openly about their kinks, their heartbreaks, their dead bedrooms, and suddenly I didn't feel so alone anymore. For the first time in years, someone messaged me back saying, "Wow, that sounds hot," instead of "you, why would anyone want that?" I felt seen again, and honestly, that feeling is addictive as hell when you've been starved for so long. But here's where morality slams into reality like a runaway train. Just because someone else gets it doesn't mean cheating magically becomes justified. Let me get this out there loud and clear: all affairs are selfish as hell. You're choosing your own satisfaction over honoring your commitments, even if those commitments are already fractured beyond repair. Anyone who tells themselves otherwise needs a reality check. And trust me, I gave myself plenty of those late at night, staring up at my ceiling, replaying every failed attempt at fixing things with Jake in my head over and over again until sleep finally dragged me under. He would never agree to an open marriage, even if I begged, not in a million years. So divorce should be the answer, right? Except here's another ugly truth. Sometimes divorce isn't really an option either, not right away, not when finances are tangled up together, not when families expect certain things, not when leaving means losing half your support system overnight. Don't act like you don't know what I mean. If breaking up was easy, none of us would be here airing out our dirty laundry on anonymous forums. So yeah, I started looking elsewhere for conversation, for validation, for some hope that maybe someday someone might actually want all of me instead of just the half that fits into their comfort zone without complaint. And before anyone tries twisting this into some kind of "she didn't try hard enough" story, let me remind you again, Jake knew from day one who I was and what made me tick. He actively misled me during our dating phase, said all the right things, pretended interest in kinkier stuff until he felt secure enough to drop the facade completely once we moved in together. If anything, I feel tricked, like buying tickets for front row seats only to find out all they're offering is elevator music behind a curtain. So now, every night feels like purgatory, a mix of guilt for wanting more than he can give and resentment for having lied his way into my heart in the first place. Is it any wonder people stray? I haven't gone all the way yet, not physically anyway, but emotionally, my mind checked out months ago. Every message from strangers online feels better than coming home to another night of awkward silence, beside someone who can barely look me in the eye anymore unless we're talking about groceries or mortgage payments. Sometimes late at night, after scrolling through endless threads full of stories just like mine, I wonder if maybe everyone's faking it, pretending they're happy living half lives because admitting otherwise would mean starting over from scratch, and who wants that kind of chaos? But then again, is this really living? My body aches for touch that feels genuine, for words whispered against my ear instead of mumbled apologies before rolling over to sleep, for someone who sees all my flaws and fantasies and still wants more instead of less. And yet, here I am, paralyzed by indecision, afraid to blow everything up but dying inside, knowing nothing will ever change unless one of us takes a risk. Jake refuses therapy, refuses compromise, refuses even talking about why intimacy matters so much to me beyond "can we not make this a big deal?" As if being starved for affection isn't already eating me alive. Meanwhile, he gets defensive whenever I broach the subject, as if saying no often enough will make my needs disappear entirely. I catch myself daydreaming about running away sometimes, not literally, but emotionally, packing bags full of hope and courage and driving off toward whatever future might exist outside these four walls filled with silence. Would it really be that much worse than what passes for marriage now? Maybe if Jake had been honest from day one, we could have saved each other years of frustration. But now resentment runs too deep. Every compromise feels forced. Every attempt at closeness ends in disappointment. Even friends have noticed. We used to be so affectionate in public. But now there's this weird tension anytime anyone asks how we're doing. Both of us scramble for safe answers while avoiding eye contact across crowded rooms. My mom keeps hinting about grandkids, as if popping out babies would fix what neither conversation nor counseling could heal. But how do you create life with someone who barely acknowledges yours? So tell me, am I really so wrong for wanting more than this? Am I delusional for hoping someone might want what Jake finds disgusting? Is seeking validation online really worse than dying by inches inside a dead bedroom where love goes to suffocate quietly behind closed doors? Every post online brings fresh perspective. Some people call kink taboo but forget consent runs both ways. Did any of us really sign up for emotional neglect? Or did we trust partners who promised more only to deliver less? Would you stay forever if your soul felt starved every waking moment? Because honestly, I'm running out of reasons not to walk away entirely, and yet fear keeps gluing my feet down every single morning as routine takes over again. And then one night, after yet another failed attempt at intimacy, I snapped inside, not loudly, not angrily, but quietly, like glass cracking beneath too much pressure over too many years. "Jake," I whispered as he turned away from me in bed again, "do you ever think maybe we're pretending this works when it's obviously killing us both?" He grunted a non-answer if I've ever heard one and rolled further away so our backs pressed together instead of our hearts facing each other. That's when it hit me, the truth I'd been dodging since forever. This isn't going to change. This isn't going to get better. This isn't love anymore. This is survival. This is resentment growing wild between two people afraid to admit defeat. This is waking up every morning hoping he'll suddenly care enough, but knowing deep down he never will. This is loneliness layered between sheets meant for lovers, not strangers. This is over. Numbness settled in where hope used to live, but somewhere beneath all that pain, a spark flickered, the tiniest ember whispering you deserve more. You deserve someone who doesn't flinch away from your touch or shame your desires or leave your soul hungry night after night after night. You deserve love that's wild and gentle, messy and honest, imperfect but real. As dawn crept through slivers in our blinds, I realized tomorrow wouldn't fix itself, but maybe I could start fixing me. But that's when Jake stirred beside me, mumbling something incoherent, a dream maybe, or another excuse waiting its turn. And suddenly, I wondered how many more mornings would pass before either one of us finally broke free. Did he feel trapped too? Did he resent me as much as I resented him, or was he perfectly content letting life happen to him instead of fighting for us? Every possibility spun through my mind until sleep claimed me once more. But this time, the dreams weren't about him, they were about freedom. But freedom comes at a price, and as much as part of me wanted out, the rest was terrified by everything I'd lose along with him. The house we'd built, the friends we'd shared, the promises we'd made when love still felt possible. Could I really walk away from all that just because sex had died between us? Or was sex simply a symptom, not the disease itself? And if that's true, what does it say about me that I'm willing to risk everything just for passion? Is passion worth destroying security over? Is desire worth shattering comfort forever? I don't know anymore. All I know is I'm tired. So tired of being told I'm too much when all I ever wanted was enough. I'm tired of shrinking myself smaller each year just so Jake doesn't have to grow bigger beside me. I'm tired, but still hoping. Hoping tomorrow brings courage instead of fear. Hoping someday soon I'll be brave enough to choose happiness over habit. Hoping I'll finally believe I deserve more than crumbs tossed across cold sheets by someone who stopped seeing me years ago. Hoping next time I wake beside him, I'll have answers instead of endless questions spinning wild inside my head. Because honestly, that's where real freedom starts, in finally telling yourself the truth even if nobody else wants to hear it. And that scares me more than anything else, because what if admitting I'm unhappy means changing everything I've ever known? But then again, isn't that better than dying quietly behind closed doors while pretending vanilla love is enough when you've spent your whole life craving color? It's almost funny, the way people judge online, quick with advice they'd never dare follow themselves. But none of them have lived inside my skin, none have stared across empty pillowcases wishing desire wasn't such a burden. One more thing before I go. I see all your comments calling kink taboo, but let's be real. The only thing taboo here is pretending consent doesn't matter both ways. Nobody signs up for neglect, nobody consents to starvation in bed or out. Don't fool yourself thinking vanilla partners get automatic moral high ground. They break vows too every time they ignore needs they promised never would go unheard. And yes, all affairs are selfish, but so is refusing growth inside relationships built on lies. You want honesty. Fine, I haven't cheated yet, but I'm balancing on razor wire and tomorrow may be too late. And as sunlight fills our room once more with Jake still snoring softly beside me, the only truth left buzzing inside my skull is this. I can keep waiting forever or save myself instead. I can keep faking happiness or chase what's missing. I can keep loving half-heartedly or risk everything for passion, but whatever happens next, it won't be silent, it won't be shameful, it won't be secret, it'll be me for once instead of pretending I'm happy living half alive. Because somewhere out there the world still burns bright and I'm done settling for shadows. Do I stay? Do I leave? Ask Jake or ask myself. Either way, the answer is coming soon, and when it does, you'll hear everything, because baby, the juiciest secrets always burst wide open when least expected.